Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
And good evening again, our fellow lovers out there. And thank you for joining us on this another excursion this evening. Yeah, we had a bit of technical difficulties in the show, so we just decided to start over because I got all distracted because I was the technical difficulty. So, hey, it happens to the best of us on occasion. So we just move on through. All right. So, but tonight we're diving into diving into the complexities of life's responsibilities and the search for meaning. We explore the delicate balance of family obligations, the intricacies of independence, and the profound questions of our existence. In relationships, we'll navigate the waters of self-esteem, privacy, and betrayal and desire. We'll discuss the challenges of parenting, from dealing with broken promises to setting boundaries in the digital age. In the workplace, we'll tackle the nuance of professional boundaries, the ethics of communication, and the personal impact of our jobs. So join us as we offer insights and advice on these pivotal moments that shape our lives and relationships. All right, Lubby. So we're going to start with something about that actually makes both of us sad, but it's important to, I think, for us to hear, because it is a perspective on the male experience that we don't often hear. So let's get this going.
Interview men for the first 4 years of my study. And it wasn't until a man looked at me one day after a book signing and said, "I love what you have to say about shame. I'm curious why you didn't mention men." And I said, "I don't study men." And he said, "That's convenient." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because you say to reach out, tell our story, be vulnerable. But you see those books you just signed for my wife and my 3 daughters?" I said, "Yeah. They'd rather me die on top of my white horse than watch me fall down." When we reach out and be vulnerable, we get the shit out of us. And don't tell me it's from the guys and the coaches and the dads, because the women in my life are harder on me than anyone else.
And it's a perspective on the male experience that we don't often listen to, right? We spend a lot of time talking about, what it means to be a man. Rightfully so. We should have these discussions because it evolves, right? What it means to be a human evolves. What it means to be a woman evolves. So these discussions are good, but we aren't often honest with ourselves about what these issues really are. And we can't be honest with ourselves as long as we don't hear what we're actually saying. You notice he wasn't complaining. He wasn't complaining that the women in his life were harder on him than everybody else. He was stating a fact. It wasn't a complaint. It was just the truth. And it's actually a good thing. It's a double-edged sword of all this. In order for us to become the men we want to be, we have to care about something bigger than ourselves. For most of us, that's our family. It's our spouse, our children, those we care about. Others find it in humanitarian work or in religious work, or, everybody has their own path. But for the vast majority of us, it's in family. And so it's right that the family holds you responsible. You want that responsibility. It makes us better men. But let's be honest about who's being hard on us. Visually, it looks like the boys are hard on us, right? But those are like war stories, It's, we don't take that seriously, except we do. Your male friends are going to be honest with you in ways that others won't. Those friendly jibes. Yeah, they can sometimes be telling you something you need to work on. You can tell them to pound rocks or not, but they're at least telling you, and they're being open and honest about it. You can respect that. Yeah. The boys will also be there for you when you've screwed up. They're the ones who will help you pick you back up. They're the ones who go help you dig your truck out the mud. You know, those are the ones who will be there during the tough times. And so, it's a hard line for us to walk as men. But if we don't try to walk it, we never become the men we are. And so I just think we should be more careful about the journeys we honor. Because sometimes we don't really see the real journey. And so before we go criticizing anybody, ourselves, womanhood, maleness, any of those things, you really should. You can't walk a mile in your shoes, but you can walk with empathy. You can listen to their perspectives on how they mean it, not how you interpret it. Because your own path is going to color your interpretation. Whether you're a man, woman, or somewhere, something in between or other, whatever it is, that path will color your perceptions of others. Just as their paths are coloring their perception of you. And you don't like it very much, do you? So let's all just be a little kinder to each other, a little more thoughtful, and I think the world will be a better place. Okay, so we've got some life questions to start with.
All right. My mother didn't care for me and my brothers as children, and now she's disabled. Am I wrong for feeling that she's not my responsibility?
Are you wrong for feeling that way? No, you're not. Right? You feel the way you feel. You can't help that. And the word didn't care for me, that can mean a lot, right? That can be from didn't care for me the way I needed, but tried, all the way to was neglectful or abusive, right? There's 3 stops along that line of not caring, and those are all different things. And so without knowing the details, I don't know what your actions should or shouldn't be. You're the only one who can decide that morality, but you do get to make that decision. And, maybe you decide your morality, your responsibility of this is helping one of your other siblings cover the costs. You throw in a few $100 a month or something, whatever it is you can cover. Maybe that's your responsibility. We don't know. But, you have to make that decision. And that's going to depend on specifics that we don't have, nor are, even if we did know, we can't make that. Only you can make that decision.
Yes.
But have the confidence that your feelings are correct. What you do with them is where your own personal morality comes from. Okay, what's next?
I turned 18 and my parents filed me as a dependent on tax forms, but I don't want anything to do with them. Can I file a restraining order still?
No, because the IRS is a completely different thing. It's going to depend upon whether you and them and your living conditions over the year 2023 qualified you as a dependent or not. If you don't want to be a dependent on their tax forms, you have to not be a dependent in your life. And so that means moving out, covering your own costs, and you filing your own taxes. That's just the way to do it. It's the only way to do it. So you can't really complain about them filing for you as a dependent if you're living in their house, you're paying their rent, and they're feeding you. If you're out taking care of yourself and you're living somewhere else, that's fine. And you also have to remember this is probably for the year 2023, January to December of 2023.
Yes.
And so you're likely still in school because you just turned 18. And yeah, you were a dependent that year.
You were a dependent.
And so, but if you want to change that, you have to become independent and start earning your own, paying your own way. it's a difficult but easy solution, or easy but difficult solution.
There we go.
Yeah. The solution is simple. The execution is difficult, but guess what? Gonna have to make it anyway. So good luck. Gives you motivation, which at 18 is difficult for a lot of people. So you've got motivation. So there you go. All right. What's next?
I am 45 years old. I have no children. I have never been married. What is my point? What is the point to being here?
Well, I think the mistake you're actually making is the children, the family is your goal, is somehow your responsibility. And let's be clear, this was a woman, and in her bio, she said 20 years married to a narcissist. Now, whether that's true or not, based upon her perceptions, we don't know. But at least that's her perception of her last 20 years, right? So that's where she's coming from on this. She's facing a lot of lifetime regret. And she didn't get the life she wanted for whatever reason. But you can still find meaning. The family isn't the meaning in your life. There's many ways to find meaning. Some people find it in serving God. Some people will find it in serving, your cause, serving a cause, be it the environment, and if family and children is something that is weighing heavy on you, there are lots of 7 and 9, 10 years old who need someone to love them, and ultimately someone to love. And so there's lots of ways to find meaning in your life. You just have to find the meaning in your life. In a sense, you get to choose. You didn't have it thrust upon you. You get to choose. And, it's never too late. Your life may or may not have been meaningless. It's not for me to judge. I kind of doubt it. But, let's assume that you're 45 years old and that you have nothing to show for it, nothing that you feel valuable to show for. You can still change that. You can do a lot in a year.
Yes, you can.
And you compound year upon year, and next thing you know, you've made a difference. You just have to choose to find that meaning. So go do it. My guess is go work with children. Find something to do. Go read to children at the library. Go teach children who haven't learned to read to learn to read. Just do something. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay. What's next?
How do I get over a comment from my boyfriend about my small chest?
Okay, first, they're 19-year-old female and an 18-year-old man, and my guess is it's one of those signs that the relationship isn't meant to go anywhere. Because quite frankly, it's one thing to have a preference and then find the person you love doesn't fit your theoretical ideals, because that just happens all the time, right?
It does.
Our theoretical visual ideal and the person you love are rarely the same. They just are, because that's not how life works. Right? It's just not. And so it's perfectly fine for him to have a preference for someone with a more robust in certain areas. That's a perfectly fine thing to do. How do you express that or don't is the question. And at 18, he's clearly not mature enough how to deal with that. And you, as a young woman, shouldn't have to. So my guess is, it's just one of those things. The relationship isn't a long-term relationship. It's just my guess.
Well, they usually aren't at this age, so.
No.
Yeah.
And this is you making your boundaries, and you deserve to be treated better than that.
Yes, you do.
And he needs to learn that, you can express these. Yes, you're allowed to express your theoretical preferences, but if you're going to do that, you dang well better be good at it. And so, right? There's nothing wrong with expressing theoretical preferences. You just have to be good at it. It's not a place for amateurs to wander. Just saying. It's not some place to wander, but sometimes they'll ask you questions, and if you have to answer honestly, you answer honestly, right? but you can answer it in a way that doesn't make them feel like less than they are. Because you don't want us lying to you, do you? You
No.
don't want us to set that precedent, even over something like, am I your perfect body type? You're the perfect human for me. Right? That's how you answer that question. You're the perfect person for me. You can answer that without answering it. That's how you get stupid answers like that.
You should have classes. You know that?
Yeah, well, it depends on the situation, right? If you're sitting around, you know each other. At some point, you know each other, and you can be honest with each other about these things. It's how you do it is all in the details. Right? If I were to draw up my perfect human being, it's going to look good.
Yeah, but if you had any exposure
Right.
to your partner's porn,
Yeah.
you know his preferences.
Well, that's a distorted view of preferences. Don't use that for anything. That doesn't tell you anything. That really does.
Really?
Not really.
Because I was kind of banking on that.
Well, there you go. You're out of luck because porn and reality are not the same thing.
Oh.
Yeah, the different uses, woman. I'm just pointing this out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Fantasyland and reality are different places.
Well,
We know this, right?
well, I've been under a distorted view for years then.
Sorry to break it to you. For most of us, porn is Fantasyland. Most of us know the difference. That Fantasyland is left better in Fantasyland. Yeah. The average person is not meant for that kind of stuff. That's how trips to the hospital or embarrassing conversations with nurses, and no one wants to deal with that. Just pointing out. All right, what's next?
My boyfriend gets mad when I lock the bathroom door.
Okay, this probably he comes from a family where, for whatever reason, the bathroom doors weren't to be locked. It was a sign of disrespect, lack of trust. Who knows? Maybe you're a very religious family and you don't want teenage boys in the bathroom for long periods of time, locked doors. Who knows? Whatever the reasoning was. And so he's carried that over. And so that's the explanation. Now, whether you should put up with it or not is a vastly different discussion. The discussion is, okay, find out why. And then you figure out how you guys can come to a thing, because locking the bathroom door is common. Right? It helps both people, right? No one wants to walk in on somebody doing the do. It just is. And so that prevents that. Even in a household like mine, where the bathroom is kind of like from the Roman days. You've got one bathroom in a house full of say 7 people.
Well, not anymore.
No.
That we used to.
Yeah, there's just many times, and so it becomes a communal attitude about bathrooms in that case. But that's how there's a wide variety of things. So just find out what it is, and then it's one of those things where you find out if these are deal breakers in relationships or not. I suspect, after you all figure out what it is and each other's perspective on this thing, you'll both move a little bit over time to something where that's workable, because it doesn't seem like something that should be anyway a big deal over time. One of those things that should be able to be worked through. All right.
It should be.
All right. What's next?
My boyfriend burned my book. Actually, it was books. What do I do? She came home and a pile of books was smoldering on the front lawn. They lived together.
Yeah. Well, I remember the whole story was they had a whole big.
They had a big screaming fight.
Yeah. And so our guess is that the relationship was already rocky. She had retreated to her books. Now, whether this was already a preference or, before the relationship, and it has become the books have become a symbol of the deterioration of the relationship. And so the theoretical burning of the books was essentially a burning of the relationship, and it's just time to move on. Was it crass and immature? Yes, it was. But, the question becomes, do you want to make it a bigger issue than it is? These things are better left than just time to move on. Right? Don't make it a bigger issue. Just time to move on.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm in a happy, committed relationship with my partner of 3 years. How can I get rid of my craving to sleep with new partners?
Okay, remember that discussion we were just having about Fantasyland? There's nothing wrong with Fantasyland. And at this stage, if it warms up your engine, shall we say, then there's nothing wrong of you to express that with your partner. It is what it is. You can't help what the mind dreams up, but you can help what you do about it. Or not,
Yeah.
is the case as may be. So just go with the flow in a sense. Just, you get to control where you go.
I've always felt no problem with you going out, or any of my partners going out. You want to flirt, you come across somebody who's really cute, who flirts, actually is flirting with you, that you don't know. You have no idea. You're just standing there talking, and you're being really nice, and I'm watching you. And I know this woman is flirting because she's touching her hair, this kind of thing, and just tee hee hee,
Right.
and laughing at what you're saying and everything. And you're oblivious.
Yeah.
But I never had a problem with, you go rev your engine, just bring it back home.
Yeah, that's the only question, right? It's not that it's the Fantasyland isn't the problem. It's the problem. Don't let Fantasyland. Don't think that reality is a good place for that.
Because let me tell you something. Reality never matches up with fantasy.
No.
It's never as good.
Yep. No, leave that kind
No.
of no. Yeah, leave that kind of stuff in Fantasyland, and as you said, just make sure you take it home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
My husband calls my cat fat all the time, and it hurts me. How do I explain it to him?
Okay. Well, first you're going to have to understand that the only reason he's commenting about your cat being fat is because he, oddly enough, cares. Wouldn't comment about your cat being fat if he didn't care. So, hey, if you want him to stop calling your cat fat, you're just going to have to tell him and explain to him why. But he's going to ask. He's not going to understand why you're hurt because he calls your cat fat, especially if you know your cat's fat.
Well, he's a little chunky.
Yeah, so your cat's fat, and your husband's calling your cat fat.
He's healthy.
And the question becomes, why are you hurt by that? The cat doesn't know that he's being called fat. Cat, and even if the cat did know that he was being called fat, it's a cat. He's not going to care that he's being called fat. So there's the question with that one, right? So just be prepared to answer.
It's our cat thing.
Just be prepared to answer that. Why is me calling the cat fat? And then the second question is, you're going to have to be prepared so the cat should probably go on a diet. He actually cares about the cat. He's pointing out.
Well, my feelings get hurt when you allude to the fact that Ramses is not particularly smart.
He's not the brightest cat in the box. He's not. He's a lovely cat. Lots of good cat qualities. He's also a cartoon, but he's not bright. Doesn't make him a bad cat. It just makes him not bright. You have to make sure you do things like not leave plastic bags around, because he will get his head stuck in it. He just will. It's not like he might. No, he will.
Again, and go running around the house
Yeah, he still hasn't figured out not to
with
put
the
his claws
bag
out.
stuck over his thing.
Yeah, he still hasn't figured out not to put his claws out when he's running through the floor. Now, sometimes he does it on purpose because I guess he just kind of plays, but he still hasn't figured out if he actually puts his claws in, he can actually take those corners without sliding into them. Still hasn't figured that one out. He's 3 years old now. He still hasn't figured that out. So bright.
Hey,
I'm just saying. Perfectly lovely cat. It's just not bright. Okay, what's next?
how should I feel about my girlfriend being friends with guys she slept with and being involved with?
Well, they're in their early 20s, right? 24, 23. So it's just going to happen when you have kind of a college type friend group, which I'm guessing what this really is. And, these friend groups will dissipate over time, most likely. So as you get older, it becomes less of an issue. But yeah, you're just going to have to deal with it, frankly. It's the way of the world nowadays, where people have, shall we say, deeper histories than they did in the olden days. And, if you want it on your side, you're going to have to accept it on the other, regardless of which side you're sitting on. So, yeah, sorry. If you want to play in the pool, you got to have to deal with the chlorine. So,
What?
I don't know. I'm making stuff up at this stage. It's been a long night. Okay, what's next?
My girlfriend and I got caught in the shower. Now what? By her mom. Got caught by her mother.
Yes, well, this one's actually relatively easy. You just be Mr. Invisible for the next couple months. That's really all you do. I mean, she didn't want to see that either. So, in that sense, don't remind her. And
You'll be all right.
you'll be all right. Yeah, I mean, you are both adults. So it is what it is. But yeah, don't. My suggestion is, be Mr. Invisible for a little while. That's it. It's my suggestion. Whether it's a good one or not, it is. But yeah. And next time, plan better, for the love of God. Just because she's going to the mall for a little while doesn't mean you have, you never know how long a day trip is going to take. You've got to actually be out of town before you guys do that kind of thing. Knuckleheads. Be smarter about it in the future. Kids. Teach them anything. All right. We're on to parenting. What's
Okay.
next?
Ex promised Disney and didn't deliver. I did, and it's a problem.
Stop it.
Again.
Yeah, stop it. The answer is to stop delivering and fixing his problems. Yes, people are going to be disappointed, but life's like that sometimes. You can't continue to fix the problems. It's not good for you. It's not good for your children. Ultimately, it's not good for him because he never has to really accept responsibility. Not that he's going to do it anyway, but that's irrelevant. You're making it so he doesn't have to. So the answer to the question is you stop doing it. Your kids know. Yeah, they're going to be disappointed, but they'll be disappointed at the right person. Well, not for the first time because they're used to you stepping up and fulfilling these.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, you set yourself up for that one, didn't you? But it's all right. You're tough. You've managed to do all the other thing. You can do this, right? If you can manage to cover for his mistakes, well, then you can cover for his mistake this way. Yeah, because it didn't work the other way, did it? Yeah.
Take them to do stuff you want to do with them.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, just whatever you do, stop covering for. It doesn't matter if it's a him or her. Just don't cover for your other partner.
It was a him.
Yeah, but the advice is irrelevant
Oh,
to the gender, right? Whether you're
okay, that's true.
the advice is the same regardless of where which side you're on this. Is it's not your job to cover for the other one, right? It's their job to deal with that. So if they fail to come through, they fail to come through. You don't have to make it up to the children. It's not your job. Your job is to do what you would have done anyway. And which you can, because you're not spending your time and energy and money covering for them.
Yeah. There you go.
So, yeah, it's a big win for everybody, actually, for you to stand up and set these boundaries. Winner for you, winner for your kids. And ultimately, if responsibility ever kicks in, your ex will end up being a better parent for it in the long run. Or not. But it's no longer your responsibility. Okay, what's next?
How old were your kids the first time you went on a long vacation without them? Now, I'm assuming there is some sort of parental supervision other than you and your husband.
Well, my mom, I was 2 and my mother went on a vacation to Hawaii. I fell off my tricycle and broke my arm.
How long was she gone?
I don't know, a week or 2.
Week or 2? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was 2. How the hell do I know how long she was gone? I barely remember. And I don't remember. I still got a scar. There's a scar. Still have the scar.
Oh.
Yeah. That scar's been there since I was like 2 or 3. Yeah. So there.
My youngest daughter was 16 and I went to Bangladesh for a month.
Let's see. I don't remember any long vacations with my kids, but anytime we go anywhere, that they'd be, their aunt would take care of them. So it's not a big deal. So I don't remember how old they were, but I never had any problems going like a weekend or something. I didn't think we ever took really long vacations because I was poor. But anytime anytime we needed to go somewhere, it was my aunt, their aunt, my sister took care of them. So, all right. So I don't know. It depends on your situation, quite frankly. Do they have someone that's responsible that can take care of them? And if they are, then the age is irrelevant. It's based upon, the people who are there to take care of them. It's grandma, sister, or someone you can trust like that. Then you can be relatively young. If they need to be older, then they need to be older. Just depends on your situation.
There you go.
And what you're comfortable with. Okay.
Am I wrong for wanting my teen to move out after he graduates? Okay, doesn't want to work. He is disrespectful. He calls them names.
So he's a modern teenager, essentially, which is, of course, oddly enough, kind of like lots of teenagers. This is a centuries long, humanity long issue, right? We've talked about it before, how you can see these same kind of complaints back in ancient Egypt and Roman times on the tiles.
Yes, you can.
You can't see the same. So you're not alone. This is not, but you are part of the responsibility, right? You raised your child. So somehow you were part creating to this. But at 18, he's now an adult and he has to accept responsibility for himself. So no, it's perfectly reasonable for you to expect movement of some form, right? It's a tough economy out there. Finding a job might be difficult for someone who has little experience, but you can expect movement. Maybe volunteer somewhere, spend some hours volunteering, working on himself. It's not wrong to expect that.
There you go.
But also, dependent upon his behavior, he may need to be sent out into life and to fail. Just understanding you may need to rescue him, at the end of summer, because you can probably get through a summer, right? But at the end of summer, you will likely need to rescue him. And, hopefully he will have been, life will have taught him the lessons he needs to learn to start moving down a different path. It's a long shot, but if you're at that, sometimes all you've got is long shots left. But the nice thing is, the good thing is, most of them figure out a way to become a responsible adult. Most of them do.
We usually do. I was in bad shape at 17, and I joined the army because I knew I had very few options in the little town that I grew up in.
And that may be an option, for someone who has lost his way or never found one. A year or two in the military may or may not be an answer.
Well, you're going to have to spend a minimum of 3.
I think you can only do 2 now.
Oh, really?
I think so. But
You'd have to ask them what jobs that only require a 2-year enlistment.
yeah, I think probably the infantry, the ones where they need people and they don't need a lot of training.
Well, there should be a list.
But what you need from him is movement towards a better future. And if he's not giving you any movement at all, then that's a different question. And if he's yelling, being disrespectful, and all kind of that, you don't have to put up with that as a human being. So, okay, what's next?
Teacher asked my daughter for her phone number. Did I overreact? Okay. Now, what they do is at this school system is when the kids graduate, they go around in their cap and gown to their junior high and grammar school teachers, and one of the teachers kept asking for her phone number, not just once, several times. And this lady just went off and got up in his face and yelled at him and everything in front of everybody.
Yeah, well, it's not probably not, right? The schools are they are a place where danger may lurk. So I'm gonna say, did you overreact? Probably not. I'm not personally one for big public displays, but it may have been warranted. So really, if you really want to do something, you bring that up to a higher official. Mention this behavior to a higher official.
Mhm.
That's what I would actually do.
Okay.
Because it's one thing for a teacher who is maybe a mentor type figure to a student to want to keep in touch, right? As they go off to college and whatnot,
Mhm.
have someone to reach out to and whatnot. That can happen without it being creepy, but you shouldn't need to ask more than once. In fact, they'd probably offer, as a student would offer, that you don't need to ask in that kind of a situation. So, yeah. Did you overreact? I don't know. It depends upon your feelings on a public display, but you should probably follow up a little bit with that. Send that talk to a higher send a note to the district itself.
There you go.
I
would, yeah.
Maybe the principal, and the district itself. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe even farther, depending upon your feelings about that. Okay, what do we have next?
How do I explain to my 6-year-old that I don't want her on YouTube or TikTok?
As she's 6, at some point you don't. You just tell her no.
Well, you explained it a couple times,
Yeah.
simplistically. But she wants it, so she's still gonna be at you.
Yeah. It's like why you don't touch the stove, except this one you don't. She doesn't have any say at all. So you get to at some point because I said so. Right? Because they're gonna push. They're gonna say they don't understand because they don't. They're 6. So it's because I said so. You can't be afraid to say no as a parent. Right? It's perfectly acceptable to want to explain it to them, but if they don't accept it, you say no because I said so. You have that authority. That is technically your job.
Ooh, yeah.
It is technically your job. Yeah, saying no is part of being a parent. Sorry to break it to all these people who believe in soft parenting. You can soft parent and still say no. There's nothing wrong with saying no. In fact, the the sooner children learn to accept it, the better off they are as human beings. Now, you don't always have to accept a no, right? As a human being, you get older, you learn the difference. But at 6, their parent says no,
Yeah. Sorry.
sorry. You don't get to go play on YouTube and TikTok. It's because I say it's dangerous. But why? Because I said so. That's all they need to know. What are you gonna do? Break out a chart and statistics and, and talk about all the dangerous things that could theoretically happen to them, either psychologically or physically? Like they're gonna understand any of that.
And they'll still argue with you.
Yeah, they
Like
will.
a little lawyer.
Yeah. Well, the percentage is it won't happen to me. Yeah, but I'm not taking the risk. Yeah, you're right. The percentages are nothing. Well, nothing bad will happen. But guess what? I'm not willing to take the dice roll. Thank you very much. So I'm not doing it. Yeah, you don't have to explain that to a 6-year-old because they're never going to accept it anyway.
Yeah.
No. So you say, because I said so. There's a reason that is a thing, that is a saying that is stuck around for thousands of years. Because it's reality. Don't try and 6-year-old your way out of reality. No, because I said so. It's okay to say that. All right.
Am I overreacting for not wanting my kids around my parents' dogs? The dogs are a new acquisition. She was not raised around dogs, and she's just not comfortable around her children. One is a baby.
Well, yeah, and it depends on a number of factors, right? You got small, excitable dogs that are unpredictable. You've got larger dogs that, while not necessarily unpredictable, they're still animals, and if they do become unpredictable for some reason or another, they can be dangerous, right? And so it's not like it's a totally unfounded fear, but my suggestion is to learn the dogs, right? So the reality is most dogs are perfectly fine, right? And so learn the dogs, make yourself a little more comfortable, but you're not you're not necessarily overreacting, but especially with an infant, there's lots of reasons you can be uncomfortable around animals with an infant. But, dogs have been man's best friend for a long time for a reason. So get to know the dogs and make the judgments from there, especially as your children get older. The infant it's a perfectly reasonable reaction, right? The dangers are everywhere and you're being cautious.
Yeah.
Completely understandable. But older children are going to need to be around dogs, especially if it's your parents' dogs. And my guess is your parents aren't going to get dangerous dogs. They're probably not walking around with Rottweilers, you know?
She didn't say the breeds, but she didn't bring it up either.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe they have Great Danes or something, which could just hurt somebody on accident, simply by running into them, but can happen anyway. So it really depends. Get to know the dogs would be my guess. But being cautious is not overreacting. I will say that. All right.
When to tell my son he's having surgery. He's 4 and he's having a tonsillectomy.
You want to tell him as soon as you can because he knows something's going on. So as soon as you can inform him about what's happening, as long as you don't make a huge ordeal out of it, he won't make a huge ordeal out of it. So don't make a huge ordeal out of it. Treat it as a matter of fact thing, and he will treat it as a matter of fact thing. He's going to feed you, and mom, it's going to be hard because surgery is a scary thing, even for something that's relatively, routine now. It's a tonsillectomy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's still a scary thing.
Yeah, well, they put him to sleep, so,
It's still a scary thing. So you're going to have to buck yourself up and treat it as a routine thing, right? It's like he's going in for a haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard, but the closer you can get to that, the easier time he will have. And he gets to have ice cream after
you
it. So just keep distracting him with he gets to have like all kinds of ice cream. And make sure he gets to have all kinds of ice cream. I don't know if they still do that, but
I would make sure it happened.
yeah, make sure it happens. It not only does it help soothe the pain of the throat, it helps soothe the emotion of the child.
It does.
So because children love ice cream. All right, so now we've got some more questions to cope with.
All right. How do I tell my boss we are not friends without hurting his feelings and hurting my job? Well, why do you need to tell him? Why don't you just, let him figure it out from your behavior?
Yeah, don't act like a friend, but there's no reason to, and unless maybe her boss has no relationship. Oh, I'm assuming it's a her because it's just written that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that he probably has not much of a life. She's nice to him because it's her nature. And so he has misinterpreted it as a friendship rather than just as a professional relationship.
Mhm.
So just don't let your relationship, just don't behave like anything more than a coworker, and the relationship will be reinterpreted properly. So just start acting like a coworker.
Mhm.
And if it becomes to the point where you feel you must actually deal with it, yeah, don't go to HR first. Actually have a discussion. Right? Because he may have been willing to, he may not even realize that he's doing it. So actually just have a professional discussion about work boundaries. If he's sending you a text message, only answer it during work hours. Even work questions, just don't answer a work question after hours.
Mhm.
Sometimes people will send you a text after hours, not because it's just because what they're working on. They don't necessarily respect an answer back. But if you answer back, then you think they're having a friendly conversation. So just by controlling when you answer back, you're maintaining control of the relationship.
Mm.
Do it all the time.
Mm.
Now, sometimes I answer even on my days off, but it depends on the individual relationship. And, I have issues that I have to deal with, right? So sometimes issues can wait and sometimes they can't, right? And if the station's off the air, I have to go deal with it. I don't get to put that one off.
I know.
Sometimes if it's a question that I can answer, tomorrow or next time I'm in the office, then it waits. Right? But not every time gets to wait, right? I'm under legal obligations to maintain a certain amount of awareness about what's going on. Otherwise, the FCC gets mad at me.
No.
Yeah. All right.
You're so powerful.
Oh, yeah. I'm so powerful. Yeah. No, I'm not. All right. So what's next?
Have to inform employee her contract isn't being extended, but have to decide between telling her as soon as possible or waiting a week to tell her in person, which is more courteous.
Okay, this actually depends how long it is. Are we talking weeks before the contract ends, or are you talking she's got 3 months?
She has weeks.
Then you tell her as soon as possible. You pick up a phone and you tell her as soon as possible. If you had a couple months, then okay, it's waiting a week isn't gonna cause anything. But if she's got 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then that week is a huge time period. So it depends.
Mhm.
And then what you do is you follow up when you get the chance to go and have that personal conversation. It's the right thing to do. So you make that personal phone call and let her know as soon as possible. And then you follow up with, the personal conversation
Mhm.
because it's likely not personal, right? These are tough times. People are getting laid off. and people who are contract workers are not going to be extended because you were there for a short-term project, and that project is now either over or ending. You knew that was going to happen at some point. That's why you're on contract. Contract workers, freelancers, they understand this. But it's nice to know as soon as possible. Trust me, we understand this. Freelancers, we understand the contract's ending. We understand that most often we're working ourselves out of a job. We get it. It's fine. Just be open and honest with us. It's not the same as a regular employee who's expecting to be there for 5-10 years, right? They know they're under contract. They know at some point this contract isn't going to be extended. Otherwise, I'd be an employee. They get it. They know it's going in. It's part of the deal. But be as human as possible. So do both. Is my answer to that.
Okay.
All right.
How do I tell my employer to stop spamming the shit out of everyone when he has 1 month of bad sales?
You don't. You just ignore them like everybody else does.
Ah,
Yeah. I'll guarantee you, everybody else just ignores them. They don't even read the whole thing. I'll guarantee it. It's just what happens. Bob is mad again. Sales are down. Bob's mad again. Nothing happens. So just don't worry about it. So, yeah. Sometimes bad months happen. But, you have to understand that they have pressures you don't. They have to meet payroll. They have to pay loans. They have to, right? They have obligations, pay taxes, suppliers. So month of bad sales can mean all those house of cards come tumbling down if it happens on the wrong month. So it's not like he's under stress. Understand that. So be a little empathy goes a long way. And just ignore it like the rest of them would be my real guess. Okay.
did the pandemic change your work personality or drive?
Well, it changed a lot of people for a lot of reasons. Sometimes it may have changed your drive because now you got to work from home, or you had to change jobs. Your whole career changed because they closed the place you were working before. Everybody's life was upended. Now, whether you changed your work personality, no. You may be more comfortable living your true personality. That's not necessarily a change. So the answer to that is yes, of course it did. It changed all kinds of things, or more specifically, the reaction to the pandemic did it. The pandemic itself, we've dealt with large things in history all throughout the time. It's how we reacted to it that changed things. So let's not blame the pandemic. Let's not blame COVID for our reactions. Whether we lost our humanity or not is a personal choice, but it was us, not that. It was us, not it. And that's the key. Understanding that, accepting our responsibility is the key to moving forward. Okay.
I've called out sick 3 times in 7 to 8 months. Am I likely to get in trouble, fired?
Well, depends really on the place. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Generally speaking, probably not 3 times in 8 months. You have sick days. My guess is you usually get somewhere between 2 and 4. So if you've got 4, you're right on schedule. So it's perfectly reasonable, especially after we've talked about the pandemic. People are more flexible on sick days because they don't want you coming to work sick and getting everybody else sick.
No, they don't.
So they've learned that lesson. If that's one lesson we have learned, it's that. And I suggest all of us be a bit more careful about how we use our sick days versus our personal days, so we don't screw that up, right? people have now said, hey, we don't want people sick coming into work. So let's not abuse that as employees and call in sick when we're not. It's simply because people are more tolerant of it. Responsibility needs responsibility. All right, what's next?
Have you ever left a job and realized it was affecting your whole psyche?
Oh, yeah. A negative work experience can affect you negatively. The reverse is also true. A positive work environment can reflect you positively, right? It can boost your self-esteem. It can boost your self-confidence. It can do all kinds of things. Just as a toxic work environment can drag you down into the depths of depression. And so it is perfectly reasonable to have a bad job affect you negatively. So how's that? All right. What do we have next?
Is work-related travel time considered on the clock?
Well, it depends on the job. If you're like a furniture mover, yes, it actually is. Once you go to the warehouse, you check in, you climb in the truck, and from the moment you're on the truck, you're on the clock. Now is travel time from your house to the warehouse, the part on the clock? No. So it really kind of depends on the job and type of thing. So, and other times it's not on the clock, but you get, if you're using your car to get to a location, well, might not necessarily be on the clock during the commute. You do get charged. You do get to submit the miles. So there's some flexibility there, and so kind of on the clock. So the quick answer is it depends on the details of the job, on the specifics of the job. So, all right. So we are on to we got perfect timing. We are on to our intimate questions.
Intimacy questions.
Intimacy questions. All right. What do we have?
I love smoking weed every time before having sex. Anyone else do this?
Lots of people do that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Sorry to break it
Big
to
time.
you. You're not alone.
No.
Now, whether that's it's probably better than drinking before sex, but it's probably not the world's greatest idea. I mean, taking something that's going to put you to sleep before you want to, just saying. When you're young, 19, 20, 25, probably doesn't make a difference. But when you're older, you end up, you lay down, oh, well, now I'm too tired to
do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't we just talk? Do you want to watch a movie?
Yeah. That's you sit down to Netflix and chill, and the problem is you just chill.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And the thing is, you're old, and it's it's fine. My knees hurt anyway. My back is sore. Whatever it is, it's hurting that day. Right? There's always something.
There's always something.
So enjoy it while you got it. How's that? Okay. What do we have?
How do people take nudes and not feel shy or embarrassed after? I'm dying here.
Well, not everybody has a negative view of their body. It is quite human. Don't get me wrong. The people who are comfortable taking nudes and that kind of stuff is far outweighed by the people who aren't. So you're actually in the vast majority. Right. So if you are going to do that type of thing, you just have to accept it. Right. Accept your body as it is. And yeah. Is it going to be easy? No. But it's also maybe telling you that you probably don't want to be doing a lot of that.
Yeah. It's not mandatory at all.
Yeah. No, especially in the modern age where those things can end up hitting the internet. And if you're not, so in the modern era, if you're going to be taking nudes, you better have to get to the part where you accept that they may hit the public. Right. It's not like the Polaroid era where, you're taking Polaroids and, the worst thing that could happen is some burglar can steal your Polaroid stash. And, This is the modern era, and the worst thing that can happen is someone can hack someone's iCloud account, and next thing you know, your pictures are all over the internet. Not that anybody cares, but it happen. It can happen. And there's so much nudity in the internet now that your 3 nudes, no one cares.
Sorry.
Yeah, but you care. So my suggestion is stop taking nude pictures because you're not comfortable enough with it, or learn to become comfortable with your body, or you can do both, which is probably the best thing to do. Not take nude pictures to get sent around, but become comfortable with yourself. So at least when you have someone to share your body with, you are comfortable with it. Okay.
Kissing after oral. Okay, this was written by a woman. Her husband likes to do it to her and then kiss her.
Okay.
And she's just like, is this common or what?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm not going to answer the commonality of it because it's a personal thing, but it's natural to feel kind of to get the ick over that kind of thing, but you have to also understand it was perfectly fine for him to be down there. So this can't be that icky. We get the emotional reaction to it, right? There's something human about it, right?
It's our own.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I don't know. These are those things that we all can work through. That's a work throughable problem. Keep a towel near you if it really bothers you that much. Or just learn to accept it. Because it's not very sexy to go and wipe your face and then go kiss you. But it just breaks the mood. It breaks the spirit of the thing. And at that point, you're well past the stage of swapping fluids being an ick should be an ick factor, but but it is what it is, right? So yeah, just learn to deal with it. Come to a compromise. One of those two things. Because us put it this way: would you rather do that than not have it happen at all?
No, it's a little on the wild side. No.
Yeah.
Come on, fair.
Yeah.
Do it for the team.
Yeah, or keep a washcloth in handy so he can wipe his face, and that's lose a little spontaneous sexuality of that. But if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. All right, what's next?
Does my libido go back down after being pregnant? Yes, it does.
For a little bit, until you get the baby itch again, and it bounces back up.
There you go.
Depending upon your age. So, but there's also no set rule for any of that. Let's be clear.
Well, your body has been through an event, okay? And you're going to need some time to recover.
Well, not just your body, your emotions. You've gone through a thing. I'm not going to call it trauma, but you've gone through a thing, and your body is different.
I said event.
Yeah. Well, it's a psychological event as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a physical event, and I think we downplay that part of it. We don't discuss that part of the psychological part of the event. You've grown this thing, and now all of a sudden it's not. And for the first, 6 months, 9 months, your body's not really your own still. And it's a very weird time of your life. And so readjusting to a more normal perspective on life can take some time.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that might not be just physical, could be emotional. So, okay.
Okay. Depressed. Will casual sex make me feel worse?
Long term, yes.
Long term, I'm afraid. I'm afraid so.
Because what will happen is you will have the momentary connection. You will feel momentarily connected, but you will feel just as empty the next day, 2 days later, whatever it is. So you either have to continually stringing along these empty experiences, pretending that they're not empty, or at some point you have to face the fact that you've had this empty life. Right? Because you're already depressed. And so you're not solving your depression, you're covering it up at best.
At best.
At best. And that's what you're hoping at best. And it rarely works out.
Yeah.
Because you're out looking, you've got a bunch of lonely people out, lonely and or selfish people going out to just take care of themselves. And you're looking for a human connection and all of that.
Yeah.
That's just bad soup, man. That's bad ingredients for soup. So it's just
Yeah.
yeah. So deal with the depression. I get it. I'm not going to judge how if you just need an emotional lift and you go out, you have a good time, and you have that emotional lift for a day or a weekend or whatever it is. I'm not going to judge anybody for that because Lord knows we've all been there. We've all needed even if it's a phony lift, we've just needed the lift, right? I can get it. Just don't think it's a solution.
Not for depression.
No, it's not a long-term solution.
Mm-mm.
It can, a moment of relief. Okay, fine. But don't expect any more than that. And you string too many of those together and it's just an empty, hollow place.
It really is.
And it doesn't matter what side of that thing you're on. Okay, what's next?
How did your anatomy and enjoyment of sex change after having a child? Well, the human body is an amazing thing. The lady bits go back into pretty much just how they were, really, as far as I can tell. And every time I've had 3. And but there's stretch marks now, my battle scars and um the 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 tummy wasn't, as flat, of course. And the hips widened. They do hips widen after childbirth a little bit, you know. And and like we said earlier, you're really not um you're kind of busy, right after you have the baby
Yeah, and
for a while.
long term, your enjoyment of sex is going to all change, but it can change in lots of different directions. There's no set.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Your particular case is going to be as varied as any. Yeah. Good luck, because yeah, no one knows because it's dependent upon all kinds of things, health and emotion, and stress and blah blah, and all kinds of things. Your own personal desires and and fantasies and whatnot, and blah blah. Yeah, yeah. So the enjoyment of sex, who knows? That's individual. But as she discussed, the body is relatively uniform, right? How much on any particular person, but it's a relatively. You should go back to relatively normal, but there will be changes, and sometimes you think they're for the better, sometimes not. Sometimes you look better with wider hips, a little more robust in the breasts area. Can happen, right?
Well, they've made statues of women. And
I'm just saying. all these things. So yes, these things change, but
Mhm.
guess what? Things are going to change whether you had a child or
Baby
not.
or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yeah. So there it is.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have?
Last question.
Okay.
Are vanilla guys unattractive, sexually speaking? See, he's been watching. It's a guy.
Uh
He's been watching porn
huh.
and the BDSM,
Okay.
and because he thinks because it's kind of popular in his crowd.
Okay.
Okay, but he has absolutely no desire to be dominant. It's just not in him,
Well.
right?
Okay. Well. Okay.
So he's wondering if he's gonna come across as like boring or something.
No, you're going to find the person who's just as boring or not as you. There's someone out there for everybody. You're not into a big BDSM scene. That's fine. Most people aren't, despite whether it's perceived popularity or not. Most people aren't. You know, oh sure, they may like to be blindfolded or lightly, have their hands tied, on occasion together lightly, kind of thing. That's not the same thing, right? So let's be honest. Most people are relatively boring, right?
I'm sorry to tell you
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So being blindfolded is reaching for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes. So, vanilla people are perfectly fine for other vanilla people. And that's the majority. So you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just don't worry about it so much. Remember, we talked about that fantasy versus reality thing all night. It's been kind of a recurring theme here, accidental recurring theme. But let's remember that this is what these are. We've talked about
It's
this
a
earlier.
porn. It's a movie.
It's no different than watching Star Wars, right? It's created for your entertainment. You're not supposed to take it home and carry it with you.
Yeah.
You're supposed to enjoy it in the moment and move on, right? It's actually it's less than Star Wars. Star Wars, at least, is supposed to kind of continue on and have a conversation and no porn in existence has been meant to have a continued conversation about. Maybe come back and watch it again next time you need your thrills, but that's not the same thing. It's an empty, shallow, distorted. You have no many times as things are cut. It's not what really happened. What you see, just like in the movies, what you see is not what really happened. Sorry to break it to you. Sorry. Enjoy the fantasy. It's not reality. And you don't want that kind of reality, even if it was. So don't look for it and you'll be fine. Yeah. Yeah. All right. That's it for us. Thank you guys for joining with us tonight. Oh, by the way, while we're not on 10 o'clock anymore, the next 2 weeks, I'm going to cut this in. So the next 2 weeks on KUBU, there's the teen radio dramas will be on at 10 o'clock on Saturdays. And I don't remember all the other times. 6 times over the next week. So you can hear some teens give the winners. And then the week after that, the same time slots, we will have the teen radio dramas. Those applications who weren't in the top 10 will get a chance to have their shows aired because they worked really hard and really should be rewarded. All right, for me and Lovey, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Please remember to love everybody and have a good night.
Good night.